Hello my friends and welcome back to the channel. Today on Joe's Gunpla Garage, we're going to be having our very first Gundam anime review, starting with Mobile Suit Gundam GquuuuuuX The Beginning. There's going to be spoilers in this review, so just a heads up for those now. There will be timestamps in the description below if you want to skip the plot synopsis and go straight to the review and hear my thoughts of this movie. The movie opens up in a nearly shot-for-shot remake of the first episode of Mobile Suit Gundam. We even have the same narration about humanity moving, living, and dying up in space. It plays the same original soundtrack cue, and we see the same explosion from inside the colony. We see the same colony drop. However, this time, we see it with all this new animation with these fine details, and everything absolutely looks phenomenal. The presentation here on display is great. After this contextual intro, we see Char and his squad enter the colony, same as we saw with the original Mobile Suit Gundam, and here they discover that this colony has been the testbed for the Federation's Operation V, the development project responsible for the mobile suit named Gundam. However, this time things play out a little bit differently, as Char is the one who opens fire and starts destroying the prototype mobile suits here. In the commotion, Char looks over and sees that the Gundam is still there, but its cockpit hatches open. Char says, "Hey, cover me," and he goes over to the Gundam and he steals it. Despite having orders to destroy everything, Char sees that there is a lot of value in stealing the Gundam and reverse engineering it. That way it can bolster Zeon's mobile suit technology. Once Char gets into the Gundam, not only did he steal the Gundam, but he also steals some lines from Amuro. As a gun cannon is attacking him, he says, "I don't want to destroy the reactor because that's going to destroy the colony." So he pulls out the beam saber, and again we get a shot-for-shot remake, but this time it's a Gundam stabbing the gun cannon, taking it out in the same fashion that Amuro took out the Zaku in the first episode of Mobile Suit Gundam. Char then enters the hangar and sees the white base, or the wooden horse as it's called in this series, but in this review I'm just going to call it white base because that's what it is. Char looks at the white base and he puts his beam saber through the bridge, killing the crew and taking the white base for himself and for Zeon. Char and white base take off, leaving the colony to rendezvous with their Zeon forces, and as he leaves, he fights Gundam Unit 1, so rather than a Zaku 1 being fought after Amuro leaves the colony in original Mobile Suit Gundam, now it is Char fighting against Gundam Unit 1, a test unit. Again, we see the Char kick, shot-for-shot remake. It looks really great here. The plot continues down the same events of the original Mobile Suit Gundam, but this time it's at breakneck speeds. We really don't get to see a whole heck of a lot of it. We discover that Char is a new type and the next step in humanity's awakening. He also makes friends with a fellow new type, Chalia Bull, and they make an alliance to be sort of partners, or Mavs as they're called in this universe. And then we see a combat encounter where Chalia Bull and Char with his upgraded red Gundam with the 5 new type bits enter combat and absolutely obliterate the battlefield. There's absolutely no Feddies left. This fully proves that new types are decently well developed in this universe and pack a powerful punch. Their combat prowess is incredibly impressive, and Top Brass sees this as their trump card in beating the Federation. The Federation ends up taking Solomon, but also loses the Moon and Luna 2 during the war. The Federation, in a dirty last-ditch effort, decides to take Solomon and crash it onto the Moon on the Granada base where Kycilia Zabi is set up. Kycilia being some of the top brass of Zeon and one of the Zabi family members. Kycilia calls up Char and tasks him with taking out Solomon, saying, "All the rest of our units are at Abawaku fighting the Federation. It's really up to you to save Granada." Char pulls his crew together and goes over his plan to break up Solomon to change its mass and change its trajectory from hitting Granada. Chalia compliments Char on his tactical prowess, and Char confides in him that if he's going to overthrow the Zabis and the Federation, he needs to always be thinking about 4 steps ahead. The mission to destroy Solomon goes very smoothly. They break into Solomon and they start setting up these bombs to blow it up into pieces. Char sends his squad on the way and he deactivates the bomb because he wants to actually use Solomon to crash into Granada, taking out Kycilia Zabi, leaving only Giran Zabi left to overthrow. However, However, just as he deactivates one of the bombs, he is attacked by a light cannon, which is a sort of gym with a cannon on its backpack. They get into a small scuffle, and Char mentions that this is the same unit that took out Dozelzabi. Char is just about to defeat the light cannon in single combat and take it out with his beam rifle when he has a new type connection and realizes that the pilot of the light cannon is Artesia. He stops his attack and he freezes in place. Zeon, out of time and panicking, all leave, and they leave Char behind because they don't want to blow up with Solomon. It's at this moment that Cecilia Zabi is told by one of her subordinates that a experiment has escaped from the Granada base, and then Char has a super new type awakening where he sort of enters this kaleidoscope tunnel. He hears this angelic singing in the background, and he's engulfed in this new type power. The Psycamu, or psychocomputer that's embedded into the Gundam, starts emitting a pink ray of energy. It starts to engulf Solomon and takes a huge chunk out of Solomon, also taking the red Gundam with it. So the red Gundam disappears, Solomon's mass changes, and it changes the trajectory of Solomon, missing Granada. Charlie Bull witnesses all this and is upset that his friend and Mav is now missing. The Federation, realizing that Solomon's trajectory has changed and is no longer going to take out Cecilia, finally throws in the towel and says, "We surrender," and they sign a peace treaty with Zeon, officially ending the 1-year war with a Zeon victory, which we have not seen before. The truce is signed in January, Universal Century 0080. Fast forward to Universal Century 0085, and we see that Shalia Bull is still on the White Base. However, now he's the commander of White Base, and he's looking for his old friend and Mav, Char Aznable. We see our protagonist Machu leaving a train station where she's bumped into by a mysterious girl. This girl, we come to find, is named Nian, and as she bumps into Machu, she passes over a device secretly so then she can evade the police, and if she gets caught, she's not going to get in trouble with the contraband. Machu, discovering the contraband, looks it up and realizes that it's a weapons controller module for mobile suits. So what this does is this is a little module you plug into your mobile suit, and it unlocks lethal weapons. It allows the mobile suit to use these weapons where usually it's closed off for civilian use. Machu catches up with Nian and they go together to this client's house where Nian is supposed to drop off this module. During their journey, they stop under a bridge that has a lot of graffiti all over it, and Machu comments on how pretty the graffiti looks. They finally reach the customer's house and Nian hands over the module, and this is where we first hear about Clan Battle, which is a type of illegal underground mobile suit fighting ring where these gangs will build their mobile suits and fight them against each other on a type of pirate network for entertainment. There's also a lot of prize money to be won during these clan battles. So these customers bought this module to help unlock their weapons capabilities on their Zaku. During this exchange, a clan battle has erupted outside of the colony as Shalia Bull and his team on White Base were arriving. Shalia Bull feels a new type ping and realizes they're in the presence of the red Gundam, the Gundam he's been searching for and hopefully finding his friend. He sends his pilot out in the brand new Gundam GquuuuuuX, so it is officially named Gundam GquuuuuuX. His reasoning for sending the GquuuuuuX out is to fight the Gundam and hopefully bring it back, and he's really hoping that Char Aznable is still in the red Gundam. However, the GquuuuuuX's Omega Psycamu doesn't activate, and it has a really hard time fighting the red Gundam. The red Gundam walks all over the GquuuuuuX. The Gundams are fighting out in space, and the GquuuuuuX is doing a decent job holding its own, but it is still not faring very well. This fight moves into the colony into a sort of slumland. It just so happens that this slumland is also where the deal is going down between Nian and these clan battle fighters with the Zaku. They land in these slums and eventually find their way into the maintenance tunnels when the military police show up looking for these Gundams. So they start destroying the slums. They say, hey, these slums are illegal. Let's just destroy them anyways. We got to find these Gundams because that was an illegal fight. So they start ripping these slums apart looking for these two Gundams. Machu, seeing all this destruction from the military police and seeing the injustice, gets very angry and goes into the Zaku, ready to bring the fight to the military police. She leaves the garage and absolutely gets obliterated by the military police, with the Zaku ending up in the same maintenance tunnels that the GquuuuuX just fell into. Machu, having totaled the Zaku, sees the GquuuuuX slumped over with the pilot out of the mobile suit. She leaves the Zaku and enters the GquuuuuX just as the military police end up in the maintenance tunnels ready to open fire on this slumped over GquuuuuX. The Omega Saikamu activates for Machu, and the GquuuuuX springs back to life and fully activates, and this is when we see the V-fin open up on the GquuuuuX. Machu is chased through the maintenance tunnels until she gets to an airlock, where the airlock opens up and the GquuuuuX falls out into space, free-falling. During this free-fall moment, Machu freaks out like any of us would, as she's going into space, and she has a new type awakening where she ends up in the sort of same kaleidoscope tunnel that Char was in during that last moment in Solomon. We hear the same song, we hear the same angelic singing, and the atmosphere and look of this new type awakening kaleidoscope tunnel looks really, really cool. It's a very cool experience seeing that, especially on the big screen. Machu, having awoken as a new type, so to speak, is able to now pilot the GquuuuuX, and she takes the fight to the military police, disabling the Zaku, able to escape its clutches and from being arrested. Shalia Bull, realizing his operation to send the GquuuuuX in to collect the Red Gundam ended up as a failure, goes into the colony with White Base. Once he enters the colony, he negotiates for the freedom of his pilot, as his pilot was arrested by the military police after he was left in the maintenance tunnels. Meanwhile, Nian meets her boss under an inconspicuous bridge and is told, hey, if you screw up one more time, that's it. You're getting fired, because he was pretty upset over the police involvement the day before at the train station. Machu, not able to focus on school, leaves and goes to the graffiti tunnel. Here she mentions the Kira, or the very pretty graffiti that she noticed, and it reminds her of the kaleidoscope new type tunnel that she ended up in. This is where Machu meets Shuji, a taller, kind of more quiet, shy guy, and Machu immediately gets a little more tepid around him. This is where she first introduces herself as Machu, and she comments on the Kira that she sees in the graffiti. As Machu and Shuji keep talking, she has a sort of new type ping and realizes that Shuji is the pilot of the Red Gundam. As they continue talking, Nian ends up finding them and tells Shuji, hey, I got your package here. Shuji mentions that his weapons module had been damaged in the skirmish the day before, and that he needed to buy a new one. He pulls out his money to buy it, and Machu bumps into him, knocking his money into the nearby water, gone for good. Nian, her heart obviously drops because she sees this as, well, I was just told not to fail, and I have failed. Machu, seeing the predicament, says that she is willing to fight in a clan battle with Shuji for the award money. If she wins this money, she will pay for Shuji's weapons module and get her phone fixed that broke in the intro where Nian bumped into her. Shuji offers to bring Nian and Machu to his tunnel, and as they enter it, they realize this is all graffitied, and this is basically where Shuji is living. He then shows them the Red Gundam that's now hiding out underneath in these maintenance tunnels that has this pretty kaleidoscope reminiscent graffiti all over the tunnels. They cut to Shalia and his pilot as they enter a bar and start to discuss what happened between the GquuuuuX and the Red Gundam. Here, the pilot tells Shalia, hey, the Omega Saikamu didn't work for me. Just as they're enjoying their beverage, they look on the TV and the clan battle starts. The very first mobile suit they see on screen of the clan battle is the GquuuuuX, and both Shalia and the pilot, their hearts kind of sink. They're like, wait a second, we just had that in our ship. It was stolen, and now here it is on TV. And that's when the pilot mentions, yeah, this girl was able to pilot it, no problem. The Saikamu worked for her, but it didn't work for me. The point of the clan battle is to fight before the police arrive, and they say you have about 5 minutes or so before that happens. So Machu shows up, and she's about to take the fight to these two Zakus. And at the very beginning of the fight, she's getting absolutely wrecked. Shuji shows up, and he starts helping Machu out. He has the Gundam hammer, so the big ball on the chain, a weapon that we haven't seen the Red Gundam use before until this moment. The Zakus, the GquuuuuX, and the Red Gundam all fight one another, but the GquuuuuX is getting absolutely hammered as she is getting double teamed by these two Zakus. Even Shuji gets attacked by these Zakus, so these kind of junior pilots are really meeting their match here. Machu has another sort of new type awakening and starts syncing up perfectly with Shuji. With these two pilots fully in sync with one another, they're able to defeat these Zakus with ease, with Shuji knocking the Zaku axe towards Machu In the GquuuuuX, she takes the axe, boom, gets rid of a Zaku right in the head, and then boom, decapitates the other Zaku, defeating both of them in this clan battle. And them's the rules. You lose your mobile suit's head, you lose the clan battle. However, this victory is very short-lived because Machu turns to Shuji in the Red Gundam, and Shuji says, hey, the Red Gundam says we should leave, and that's when the police show up, and then the movie ends. So what did I think of GquuuuuX The Beginning? My tastes usually align with original Mobile Suit Gundam, 8th MS team, things like that, so I kind of lean a little bit more towards the grounded side of Gundam, so that's where my tastes lie, so think of that as we talk about the pros and cons here. This series is co-produced between Sunrise and Studio Khara, so we have some big, well-known names in the mecha genre working on this series. And from what I've read online, this really is just a compilation of the first 3 episodes put into one movie for theatrical release to kind of get everyone hyped for the new series. I feel this context is important before diving into the review. The good. I think the animation for this was absolutely gorgeous. You can tell a lot of time and effort and care went into this production, especially with the UC0079 portions of this movie. Remaking a classic with modern day stylings isn't easy, and they really knocked it out of the park. It's a gorgeous movie, and because this is the first 3 episodes put into one, I assume that the rest of the series is going to be of consistent quality, so we're in for a very nice looking anime once the full series comes out. What I really appreciated about the animation as well was there was a good blend of traditional animation as well as CG. Now with Gundam Hathaway, basically all the mobile suit battles was CG, but this time we have CG for the more complex mobile suit stuff, but we also have a lot of traditional looking animation as well with these mobile suits, so it's a very nice blend. It's kind of similar to Jurassic Park if you think of it that way, with the blend of the animatronics and the CG in Jurassic Park. That's why that CG still holds up today, because you're not just lambasted with CG the whole time. So it's a wonderful blend, and I think that does a really great job, especially with all the mecha actions within this series. It really just makes everything flow well, and it doesn't cheapen the experience out by just saying, this is hard to animate traditionally, so here's just a bunch of CG that's easy to do. And I think that restraint is really important here, so I'm giving them a ton of kudos for that. That's fantastic. The characters seem okay, the most memorable ones being Nyan, Machu, and Shuji. The sort of side characters for the clan battle, I can't fully remember the names already, so they're kind of hit or miss. They don't have a ton of screen time, so I assume they're going to flesh those characters out once the series actually starts going. But from what I saw of the main cast in 0085 timeline, it looks really promising and really interesting. There's a lot of intrigue and mystery behind these characters, so it looks like there's going to be a lot to develop here and a lot to unpack. As we even saw with the first clan battle, even Shuji got hit during the clan battle, and Machu is no stellar ace pilot herself either, so there's a ton to develop here with these characters. I also found Machu to be much less obnoxious over her counterpart from Witch from Mercury. I found Soletta Mercury to be pretty obnoxious and kind of annoying during my watch of that series, but I think Machu is a more interesting character right off the bat versus Soletta. It's not fair to compare both of them because we've seen all of Soletta's story, but we haven't seen all of Machu's story, so I'm interested to see how that plays out. I'm not going to say outright right now that Machu is better than Soletta, but first impressions, I like Machu better than I liked with my first impression of Soletta. Let's just say that. In the 0079 arc, all the characters act as you would expect. However, Char seems a little more brash this time, and I think that fits in well with his character. However, as we continue through the 0079 arc, we see that he still has his cunning where he says, I'm gonna intentionally sabotage this Solomon job. That way it takes out Cassilia, and then I really only have to worry about one person, Giran Zabi, because he's still working on that revenge quest, but that's not really explicitly stated to us. More on that later. What I like about the 0079 stuff is that there was no character assassinating type of retcon similar to like kind of what we saw with the Star Wars sequels. We don't have none of that. Char is still Char from 0079, which is interesting because it's been 45 years, right? And they've kept that character consistent, and that just goes to show that the writers of GquuuuuX took a lot of care and really wanted to make sure that they did the original character and the original source material justice. Huge props for that. absolutely huge props. The sound design here is fantastic. The mechs sound big and powerful. The weapons sound amazing. We have the classic beam rifle sound from original Mobile Suit Gundam, which has kind of turned into the beam magnum sound from Unicorn. The guns don't sound like popcorn popping off in the microwave. They sound a lot better, a lot more meaty, if that makes sense. They just sound better. The soundtrack during the 0079 sections uses the original soundtrack from Mobile Suit Gundam. This is both a pro and a con, but mostly a pro. There's really only one con with it, and we'll get into that later. But hearing those classic themes boom throughout the theater made me feel like a kid again. It was awesome. I loved it. And it just goes to show that even when they synced up that original narration with the original OST, that they just really, really care. You know, I had a blast. I've been dreaming about something like this since I was a kid, and it was nice to finally get it. As the story progresses, we get a more type of modern soundtrack as we enter 0085. We get a more type of electronic drum and bass type of feel, and that even feels a little nostalgic, especially as a Western fan, because I grew up listening to Toonami, which had a lot of drum and bass type of soundscapes. I find the OST for the 0085 parts to be aesthetically pleasing, and it fits really well with the world and the story they're trying to tell here. Everything just blends into this nice perfect package during these 0085 parts. And I think they spent a lot of time making sure everything blends together and is just cohesive and to the point. It's laser focused. It just works. Now, I just mentioned aesthetics for the OST and how perfect they are, and that blends into the animation and the stylings and the world as well. I'm happy to say that my gut feeling was kind of right, where it has a distinct type of cyberpunky, like hyper-future type of vibe to it. Now, we don't have augmentations and bodies and things such as that, but we have overpopulation, we have classism, we see these people living in slums, and we see this sort of like cobbled together technology. So when we see the clan battle and the type of technology that's running the clan battle, we see this cobbled together satellite that's got all this sticker bombing on it. It's kind of got this like punky edge to it. So I think this was a great direction to go to, especially for a modern audience, and I think this is going to be a nice bridge to open the franchise up for newer fans, and especially with more of the 0079 stuff. I think that's going to open a big door for them. They're going to say, I want to know what the actual 1 year war was like, and who knows, this is probably going to have a lot of fans watching the original Mobile Suit Gundam. I think we can only see a positive from this series, just as it is right now. Now, when we first heard about this series, I was definitely a little tepid because they really wanted to drive home the fact that Machu was a high school girl in all the promotional announcements, and I felt that was a little too close to Witch from Mercury. I was like, I don't want to see another school setting. That's not an interesting setting to me. I want to see a varied landscape and all this other different type of stuff. I don't want to just be stuck in school. So I'm happy to say that there was about 1 minute of screen time with Machu in the school in this movie. That could change when the actual series comes out. I hope it doesn't. I don't want that to be a main focal point of the actual series itself, because I think there's a lot more interesting things to show here than just a slice of life school anime with Robot of the Week fights put in. If that's what it turns into, I'll definitely be bummed, but I don't think that's the route they're going to take. It definitely doesn't seem like the route they're going to take. So I'm happy to report, at least with this movie, there's not a ton of school footage in it. That's just a topic I don't find very interesting. So that's a big plus for me. Now, I'm sure people are going to have an issue with how Machu is able to pilot a mobile suit without any prior experience, but I think we need to think hard about those scenes because she really doesn't do a good job piloting those machines right off the bat. When she first gets into the Zaku, she gets obliterated. When she first gets into the GquuuuuuX, she basically has to run away and space herself to get away from the military police. So it's not like she gets into it and she's just a natural and capable of doing everything right away. It's not until she has those type of new type awakenings within the GquuuuuuX that she's able to actually utilize the GquuuuuuX. And it's also shown with Char in the 0079 arc that new types in this type of alternate UC are much, much more capable over how they were in the original Mobile Suit Gundam. I think it's very important that they showed that Machu wasn't a natural mobile suit pilot. In fact, she's pretty terrible right off the bat. So I'm really hoping we get to watch her character development, and it's similar to how Amuro's was in Mobile Suit Gundam, where he grows not only as a character but also as a pilot himself. So I'm interested to see that with Machu, because I think this character has a lot of potential. What I really enjoyed about the story here is how they kind of spoon-fed us these little bits of mystery. There's all these little mystery boxes that have been established in GquuuuuX The Beginning for us to open up later on in the series. And they gave us all these little tiny tidbits like, where's Char now? How did Shuji get the red Gundam, and where did he come from? Who is the escaped test patient from 0079? Who is Machu, and how does she have all these new type powers already? So there's a lot to unpack here, and I'm really excited for the series to explore these characters. And that's what I was saying when we first talked about the GquuuuuX on this channel during the initial announcement. There could be a lot of potential here with the story, so put the designs you don't like to the side, and let's focus on the characters in the story here. And I think there's a lot of good packed into the story. They've already kind of given us these little things to unpack and unfold, and I'm really excited for the series to continue and see where they go with it. Now, let's talk about the mid. And starting off the mid, we're going to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is the redesigns of all the mobile suits. Now, these new designs are going to be very, very polarizing, and it's subject to everyone's opinion. Now, after watching this series and seeing the white and red Gundam on screen, it looks a lot better to me. Seeing it on your smaller phone screen doesn't do as much justice as seeing it on the big screen. It definitely looks a lot better to me, and I've warmed up to it a ton. Now, I know this isn't going to be the same for everyone. I know some people, their minds have been made up that this is too far of a departure from a classic iconic design, and I do think that's a fair criticism. So I don't think we should be infighting with each other over if someone likes the design or not, or whether they hate it or not. I think we should just agree to disagree, because the designs are definitely going to be polarizing for some and loved by others. You can't always do the same thing back to back to back, but at the same time, as I was watching this, I was like, man, this would have looked really, really cool. Seeing the classic RX-78-2 in Casval's colors, I think that would have been fantastic. So, you know, it's a catch-22. They want to do something new, but at the same time, there's a lot of potential to have done an update of the older designs here. So I see both sides of the coin, and that's why I'm putting this section in the mid. Because I'm not saying the designs are bad. In fact, I've warmed up to a lot of the designs here, especially the ones that we didn't really see a ton of with the promotional material, so the white and the red Gundam. I do like those quite a bit more now. But these designs really are not going to be for everyone. So just agree to disagree here. But I've warmed up to them. I think they're pretty okay now. Now we're gonna get into the bad, and these are just the things that I didn't particularly like about it. Some of these are nitpicky, and I'll say that right up front, but there is one glaring issue, and that is the pacing. The pacing of the 0085 section is fine. It's perfect. I'm totally fine with the pacing once we switch over from 0079 to 005. But the pacing during the 0079 portion is fast. It's very, very fast. Like, we see the original first episode, basically shot for shot remake, and then at about the 15-minute mark, it's like 0 to 100 so quick. It just takes off. They gloss over a lot of battles. There's a lot of expository dialogue that's just kind of hand-waved over. I kind of wish they went for a more show and less tell of way to do this. I think they could have done, like, you know, one of those montages where you see like characters fighting and it goes throughout the year. I think they could have done something like that, with maybe putting small breaks here and there for the really important bits of plot and story that happened, because you'll have like a cut to a scene and they'll be like, oh, Garmazabi left the military, and then you'll cut to a scene, and then you'll cut to a scene, and then you'll cut to a scene. So it's like a lot of kind of cuts back to back, and I just don't think that portion was paced very well. I just thought it was too quick. I understand wanting to get to the new stuff right away, but for people who are new to the series, I think you need to spend a little bit more time in that 0079 section, just so then things are less talked to you. That's like me telling you the plot of what happened in this movie in this video. That's kind of what they did. They said, this is what happened in 0079. And then we get to 0085, and then the plot kind of evens out a little bit. So we get this breakneck speed, and then it evens out. So you can see where that dichotomy is a little jarring as you're watching a film. Now, I did praise the animation, but I will say during some of the combat sections of 0079, and this sort of goes hand in hand with the pacing, we see a section with Charlie Bull and Char where they go and attack the Federation, and they basically wipe everything out in like 30 seconds. However, when we see the bits take off from the Red Gundam, we just see a laser go across the battlefield, and then we just see a bunch of explosions. We don't even see the enemy that they're shooting at. So it definitely feels a little Seed-esque with the beam spam during some of these combat encounters in 0079. So once again, I think this goes hand in hand with the pacing issue. It's not a problem animation itself. It's just kind of like this little portion in 0079 feels rushed. I don't want to say not fully finished, but it's just like a bunch of explosions and then they move on. I think that could have used a little bit more time in the oven. It's not necessarily an animation thing. I just kind of wish we saw a little bit more. It felt like I was playing a Dynasty Warriors game where there was just explosions everywhere. So I felt that was a little bit cheap, and I think they could have rethought that section in 0079 a little bit better. But like I said, that's a nitpick. I know they're just trying to establish Char's new type powers, and it basically did that. I just wish they did it a little bit better with a little bit better execution there. The last con I'm going to bring up is with the music. Now, I did praise the music, especially the reuse of some OST from Mobile Suit Gundam. However, there is one scene in particular during 0079 where Char is overseeing his upgrades to the Red Gundam, and they pick the most obscure, like not good song from the original Mobile Suit Gundam. The song is called The Menace of Zeon, and it's towards the back half of the song, and it's literally just a guy going absolutely ham with a flute, and it's very weird because it's from the 70s, right? So it's got that type of like experimental flair to it. It does not fit in GquuuuuX. In fact, I found it extremely distracting because I'm like, why is someone going absolutely insane with this flute in the background right now? It does not sound good, and it doesn't fit the vibe of readying my war machine for battle, right? It just does not sound good. It's so goofy. If you want to hear what I'm talking about, look up the Gundam OST, go to Menace of Zeon, and go to the latter half of the song, and you'll go, okay, yeah, I heard this in the film, and it did sound pretty bad. Now, it's definitely a nitpick, but it's, like I said, it's just very distracting. Took me right out of the movie. I can't see how a new fan could listen to that and go, yeah, this sounds great. This really fits the aesthetic of the scene of getting your war machine ready for battle, right? And that's how I looked at it. I'm like, as a new fan, if they were listening to this, they would say, what is this? And why is it playing right now? But that's it. It's a nitpick. It's kind of more of a funnier nitpick. I thought it was a weird, inappropriate pick. My final verdict on GquuuuuX The Beginning is I really, really liked it. I really enjoyed my time in the theater. As a longtime Gundam fan, this scratched a big itch for me. It was really cool seeing more Universal Century type stuff, even if it was a alternate Universal Century. Really, my biggest issue with GquuuuuX The Beginning is the pacing for the 0079 section. I think it was a little bit too fast, and this makes me a little worried for the full series because I don't want this to just be a quick 25 episode run. I would like it to be more than 25 episodes. I think like the 38 episodes that Gundam X was and 44 that the original Mobile Suit Gundam was the perfect amount of episodes. I don't think this needs to be 50 episodes, but I think it's hard to tell some of these large overarching stories over 25 episodes. We even saw that issue with GWitch where the last act was like super, it was way too quick with Witch from Mercury. So the pacing is a little too fast at the end of GWitch. I'd rather it be at the beginning, if that makes sense. So I'm hoping the pacing for the rest of the series is consistent with what we saw with the 0085 portion of the movie itself. But for the rest of it, I'm excited. I'm really excited about these mystery boxes. They really reeled me in with all these like little spoon-fed bits of plot here and there. I really want to see what they do with it. I didn't want to leave the theater. I wanted it to continue. Like I was locked in. I was ready to continue watching, so I was super bummed when it ended. And I haven't really actually been this excited about something like this in quite a while. I think the characters have a ton of potential. I think they have a ton of potential for great development, both as pilots and as characters themselves. I think the aesthetics of the series is fantastic. Everything kind of blends well together with the animation, the music, the character, the art style. Everything kind of is just a perfect package. They really put a lot of care and a lot of soul into this series. It's not just a mindless product, which is what we're so used to seeing in the West. Like there's some care put into this series here, and it's evident. And I can't give them enough credit for that. They really did a fantastic job here. I think if you're a longtime Gundam fan, you will find some enjoyment from this, even if you don't like the designs. And I think if you're lukewarm on the designs, or you're not at the point of like hating them, but you don't like them, I think you'll get a better appreciation for them after you see it on screen. I mean, I even called that with the Gundam EX from Requiem for Vengeance. Everyone was like, oh, this thing's ugly, it's terrible. And then they watched the show and they're like, it's actually pretty good. So I think if you go and watch this and you're tepid about the Gundam designs, I think you'll warm up to them pretty quickly. Now, there are two types of Gundam fans that I would be hesitant to recommend this to, and that would be the real grounded, real robot type of fans and people that don't like new type lore. Now, the combat in 0079 has a lot of bit type weaponry, as well as we see Char's new type awakening in the big kaleidoscope tunnel, and then this takes a giant chunk out of Solomon with his new type resonance. So that's about as much new type magic as we see in this movie, but I'm guessing there's probably going to be more as the series progresses, because there's new type lore throughout this entire movie from the very start to the very end. So if you're not a fan of new types, I don't think you're gonna necessarily vibe with this series. The combat during the clan battle at the end is pretty decent. It's not like no one's super overpowered one over the other. In fact, Shuji and Machu have a hard time against those two Zakus, so it's not like, you know, these new types come in and just wipe the floor with them. But like I said, with new types being so prominent, this series does have the potential to go completely off the rails. So it's definitely not real robot, and there's a bunch of new type lore in it already, and so both those kind of go hand in hand. So if you're not a big fan of that type of stuff, I don't think you'll get the same enjoyment out of this that I did. Well, that's going to do it for me in this review of GquuuuuuX The Beginning. I hope you enjoyed this anime review. This is the first time that we've had an anime review here on the channel, so if you'd like to see more of this, let me know in the comments below. I appreciate you watching the video, and I gotta give a huge shout out and thank you to all my subscribers. The channel's been popping off, and I'm so happy to be bringing you guys this content, and I can't thank you all enough for the support that you've given the channel. The growth here has been outstanding. We've done so much in 1 year, so I just want to keep building with this momentum and keep giving you guys some great Gundam content. Until the next video, stay safe, have fun, and happy building.